Welcome to How to Be a Couple with me, your host, Giuliano Gramado. It really is possible to have an incredible relationship, and not just the relationship's great, but literally for your relationship to be the absolute best thing in your life. And if you don't feel that way now, that's okay. All right. But in the last few episodes, right, I've been talking about different things, and we talk. I talk about divorce a lot on here because I want to help people shift their perspective around it, right? But sometimes when I talk about those things, I can see people feeling like, oh, like I thought you said not to focus on divorce. Right? Because if you focus on avoiding divorce, then you're going to end up in that direction. So why are you talking about it so much? And so I kind of wanted to share a little bit of insight on that, because in the relationship itself, we don't talk about divorce all the time, right? That's kind of the whole point. Um, I'm going to give a little bit of an example here in just a little bit to kind of put things into perspective, and like where the concept of divorce like comes into play in your marriage, right? Because I say, okay, you don't want to, um, be so focused on avoiding divorce that you move in that direction, but also at the same time, you don't want to be like always thinking about divorce, right? Like as if, oh, like we're gonna get divorced, or threatening or using it all the time, right? That's not the point of what I'm saying. And again, like I said, I'm gonna give you an example to kind of put in perspective in a little bit. But the first thing I just want to hit on is just that, um, and like it's just like what's possible, right? When you shift your perspective around relationships. Because this morning, I was on Instagram and I saw this reel about relationships, and it kind of made me emotional. It was just it was meant to be kind of like nostalgic. Um, anyway, the point is that it was talking about long relationships, and it made me emotional. And it was funny because I thought, wow, like my relationship with my wife really is like the best part of my life. I love her so much. I love our relationship. I love our life that we get to live together. And I felt like it was a good opportunity for me to share that with you listening, because I want you to see what's possible, right? I'm not just like spouting this random stuff that doesn't make any sense, and we have this terrible relationship, or I'm ironically I was married and divorced when I was younger. But I'm not just like divorced now and like alone and telling people blah 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 divorce, right? Like we have an amazing relationship, and I really do believe that it's because of these things that I'm teaching. That's why I'm teaching them, is because I want other people to be able to have this experience. I see people struggling. I see this like constant tension. I see people fighting. I see people, threatening divorce, moving in that direction. And I'm like, man, like you guys could have this. You could have this amazing relationship if you're willing to let go of some of these like ideas that have just gotten a grip on what feels like everybody. And your relationship can be amazing. Like I said, it can actually be like the peak experience in your life. And it can be peaceful. It can be, playful and fun. It can be really deep, and you can have this really strong connection with your partner. You can have all of those things. And you know what? It can last a long time. And that was part of the reason why I wanted to share that example with you from earlier as well, is that I'm not against long marriages. I've said this before, but I actually believe that I will be with my wife until we die, because of the fact that we have a great relationship. But that is not what my commitment is. My commitment is to being the best version of myself in this relationship. And so is hers. And for that reason, we have a great relationship, and we'll continue to have one, and we likely will be together until the day that one of us or both of us dies. Right? So I'm not against long marriages, but those things are I'm sorry, the length of a marriage is the byproduct of having a good marriage. And if you take these things I'm sharing with you and you actually apply them, that is what's possible. You can have this deeply meaningful and joyful and full of fun and amazing relationship that also happens to last a long time. That's what's possible. And here's what happens, right? Couples, they go into it, and we've talked about this before, but just to give a little bit of framing here, right? So many couples say divorce is not an option. And the reality of the matter is that it is an option, right? It's not meant to be used as a threat, but it's just a fact of life. Many marriages end. Okay. And the statistic is that half, and a recent statistic I heard was that 56%. Okay. So most marriages end in divorce. That's a real number. So I'm not like, this isn't just like some, unknown thing. Like most people know this, that half of all marriages end in divorce is supposedly a majority now, right? When you say divorce isn't an option, it's not going to happen. Divorce isn't on the table. It's like, okay, well then you're just not being realistic, because the fact is that half or most of marriages do end that way. And it's not the people who just go, oh, we're not going to end up divorced. The people that decide, those are the half that don't. No. Okay. So this is the example I wanted to give you to kind of put things into perspective, is the concept of death, right? All of us know that we're going to die one day. It might not be today, but it also might be today. Right? That's the thing about it. Like most of us hope we're going to live to like some, the average age, right? Or like hopefully 80s or 90s, something like that. But you also might not, right? You might die in your 70s or your 60s, or you might die next week or today, right? That's the whole point, is that you don't go okay, so before I explain it more, think about this, like take it a step further. When it comes to death, even though we all know we're all going to die eventually, we don't know when it's going to be. It could be, at a normal age of 80 or 90 years old, but it could also be very soon, right? That is a real possibility for every single person, but you don't think about it every second, right? You're not constantly like, oh, I'm so afraid of dying. But the other thing too is that it does change how you live if you do think about it, right? You keep it in the back of your mind. It gives you perspective on the things you do every day, right? And what's important. It helps you to prioritize, or, like make decisions, because you go, well, hey, I don't know about XYZ. The point is that it's the same thing when it comes to marriage and divorce, right? It's not saying that, unlike death, it's not inevitable for everyone. But the point is that knowing that it is a very real possibility puts things into perspective. You don't worry about it constantly, just like with death. But if you remind yourself of it every once in a while and you think about it, it can shift your perspective, and it can alter the way that you make decisions. It can alter the things that you choose to do and your behaviors every single day, because it gives you a proper perspective. That's all that this is meant to do, right? You're not meant to worry about getting divorced, but you're also not meant to constantly be threatening divorce because, hey, this is on the table, right? It's not meant to be used as a way to manipulate. It's meant to give you perspective in your relationship. And what it can do, right? If you maintain that perspective, you stop taking each other for granted. You choose each other on purpose. When things, go wrong, you work to repair it faster. You say, I love you more. You don't wait to do the right thing. You don't wait to do the kind thing for your partner, right? Because, and I've talked about this before, but when you believe that divorce is not an option, consciously or subconsciously, and I would say for most people subconsciously, because I don't think they're doing this on purpose, but subconsciously, you are no longer incentivized to be the best version of yourself. Why? Because you both agreed to be with each other until you die. So yeah, of course you want to have a good, you want to enjoy your relationship, but ultimately your partner's never going to be able to leave you. But that's the whole point of this, is what's kind of funny, is that that's unrealistic. Like, yes, everyone makes that promise. It's in everyone's vows, till death do us part. But again, more than half of all marriages end in divorce. So clearly that's not working, right? The idea is that when you know that your partner leaving is like a realistic outcome of your marriage, it gives you the perspective to say, I want to do things right, and I want to do them right now. I want to be a good partner today. Whatever I need to do to be a better partner, I'm going to make it happen now, because I know that if I don't make that change right now, if I fast forward a few years, there's a chance that we will not be together or that we will not be happy. And I know where that will lead. Right. But if you go, well, divorce isn't an option, then you can't even do that exercise in your head. Right. You just be like, oh, we're not happy. Okay, that's fine. But like, if you actually think you could lose your partner, doesn't that give you more of a perspective? Again, this is not your partner threatening it. This is for your own perspective. So you go, oh, okay, wait a second. I know that if this continues in this direction, we might not be together. And I love this. I value this. So I am going to make these changes. And again, just like in the other direction, that the incentive goes away, that's subconscious, it can be that way here. Like I don't think about this every day. Right? I want to make that abundantly clear. I'm not always thinking about divorce. But the point is that because I know that it is a realistic outcome to most marriages, and that it's not just simply not an option in ours, and that it is an option, I do believe that it's like this subconscious thing that once you take on that belief, it affects your actions, right? Automatically, just like it does in the opposite direction. And that's why it's super valuable to be able to take this perspective on and truly internalize it, because then it will affect the decisions you make. It'll affect your behaviors. It'll affect the way that you show up in the relationship. And there's a difference, right? In the energy that you bring to a relationship. When you're in it because you have to, there's this like drag almost to the relationship. And like I told you, I was married and divorced when I was younger. So I know what that feels like staying in something because you feel like you have to, or you're staying in it because you want to, right? That's a totally different story, right? Like you are a completely different person being in a relationship because you want to be there versus being in it because you made a promise X amount of years ago, right? In one situation, you feel like you're trapped. And the other one, you are the powerful person, right? It's an empowering perspective. You go, I'm choosing to be here. I want to be here, and I want this relationship to work. So when you shift your perspective here, like I told you, it can be conscious, but subconscious as well. It leads to more respect between you and your partner. Right. I think about even in our own relationship, right? Like we're not like you're not nobody, it's never gonna be like 100% perfect all of the time. Right. My wife and I, we don't argue, but like we've had little disagreements, or sometimes where one of us is feeling strong feelings, right? Maybe say something rude or something that we regret saying. But the point is that like when you know where it can end up, that shifts, right? You apologize faster. You have more respect for your partner. You show that respect more. There's more attraction. There's more honesty, right? It's so funny because it's not just about you, right? But when you and your partner make this decision and you're there for those reasons, like it's like I'm choosing, not because I made a promise and I'm here to fulfill that vow that I made. It's because I love you and I want to be here, right? That's to me is super romantic, right? That's more romantic than I fulfilled my vow, right? I stuck it through because I said, well, ugh. Like that's gross to me. Like to me, it's gross to think like, oh, I'm here because I promised to be here and therefore I'm fulfilling that promise. It's like, well, do you even want to be here? Like just leave, dude. Oh man. So do you understand how this can have an effect on your relationship? You start shifting from being a victim, because that's essentially what it is, like, hey, I'm a victim to my past, to the promise my past self made. Right? That's essentially what it is. Versus, hey, I'm choosing to be here. Right? If I'm here, like, like my partner, right? Like my wife, she knows if I'm here, it's because I want to be here. It's because I'm choosing to be here. There isn't resentment. There's no this like, you don't just like suffer in silence over things that are frustrating you, right? It works both ways. It's like I'm not only am I more respectful to my wife, not only do I care more about the effects of my decisions, but I also don't put up with stuff as well. And she knows that I won't, right? Like I'll explain, hey, this is really bothering me, right? if something's going on. It's same vice versa, right? The whole point is that it adds this level of accountability on either end, but also this presence, right? And this love that you don't experience otherwise. And I can say that because I've experienced both ends of this, right? It is a different experience when you are choosing to be there versus you are there because you made a vow that you would be there. So here's a question for you. If you knew that your relationship, that your marriage was a choice every day, how would you show up today? Put yourself in all the situations I just described throughout this episode. How do you feel like you would show up differently with that perspective? Here is what it comes down to. I don't believe that great marriages are held together from a vow that was made when you were too young and too naive to know what you were committing yourself to. I don't think that is what makes a great marriage. A great marriage is built by two people who continue to choose each other every single day. And if you want my personalized help with your relationship, I have a waitlist going to work with me one on one. Just send me a DM on Instagram at howtobeacouple.co that says waitlist. And I'll be sure to add you to the list and I will let you know when a slot opens up. In the meantime, focus on being the best version of yourself in your relationship today and know that the length of your marriage, how long you end up being together, will take care of itself. It'll just simply be a byproduct of how great your relationship is. Talk to you next time.